You step through a creaking wooden door. It groans on iron hinges. And a wave of smells hits you like a brick wall: sour ale, roasting meat, damp straw, and something faintly like old sweat and smoke. Your eyes take a moment to adjust to the flickering amber light inside. No electricity. Of course, the only glow comes from a large hearth at the back and a handful of beeswax candles stuck into iron holders, dripping wax like melted bone. You're not in your timeline anymore. Welcome to a tavern in 1380. Let's get one thing straight. Medieval taverns weren't the cozy, beer-sloshing fantasy hangouts you might picture from a video game. Nor were they dusty, church-hating pits full of bandits and beggars. The truth lies somewhere in between, fascinating, grimy, alive, to the weary peasant, the traveling merchant, or the bard with a half-tuned lute. This was the living room of the Middle Ages. A place of gossip, violence, singing, scheming, and, yes, sleeping, eating, and drinking. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And tonight, you're here. The floor beneath your boots is straw-covered, meant to soak up the worst of what spills or leaks, whether it's spilled ale or someone's last meal after too many pints. If it's a more upscale place, there might be rushes, dried reeds, scented with lavender or rosemary to mask the stench. But make no mistake, nothing truly masks the smell of a tavern that hasn't been properly cleaned in weeks. The ceiling is low, the beams blackened with smoke. On the walls, faded tapestries or animal skins may be hanging, not for style, but to stop drafts from crawling through the cracks in the timber. You make your way past rough-hewn tables and benches filled with townsfolk. Farmers, the occasional hooded stranger. A man with one eye is laughing so hard he chokes on his drink. Two young lads arm wrestle near the back, slamming each other's fists into the table and knocking over a clay mug. No one flinches. No one apologizes. This is normal. A small dog darts under a bench, fleeing from a thrown bone. In the corner, a woman in a stained apron wipes down a wooden slab of a table with a rag that looks like it hasn't seen soap since last harvest. The taverner, never called a bartender, not in this world, is behind a heavy oak counter. He's not exactly smiling. No one here is. His face is lined with sun and hard living. His teeth are stained. His hands rough with years of chopping, pouring, cleaning. But he knows everyone in here. And everyone knows him. That's part of his job, not just to serve drinks, but to remember names, settle arguments, and kick out troublemakers before the knives come out. And speaking of drinks, no, you're not getting a pint of Guinness or a cool IPA. There's ale, yes, but it's probably weak by modern standards and brewed without hops. If the tavern is near a monastery or a wealthy town, maybe there's stronger mead or even wine, though only the richer patrons will afford that. Most peasants will sip on small beer. A weak, low-alcohol brew safer to drink than water. Yes, safer. In many medieval towns, the local water supply was dangerously contaminated, so ale became a daily necessity. Not just a luxury. Let's say you've got a few coins to spare. You ask for a plate of food. Don't expect a menu. The tavern has one dish, maybe two, cooked over the fire or in a cauldron that's been bubbling since morning. It could be a thick stew of beans, barley, onions, and whatever meat they had that day, rabbit, perhaps, or salt pork. Bread is common but hard, and people often dip it into their stew to soften it. No forks yet, just spoons, knives, and hands. Napkins? A sleeve will do. As you sit, chewing slowly, you listen. The real entertainment of a medieval tavern isn't just the food or drink, it's the conversation. Local gossip is gold here. Who's stolen what? Who's cheating who? Who owes the reeve taxes and might skip town tonight? You hear names you don't know, but the tone is clear. Secrets spill easier with ale. A bard strums a lute, not quite in tune, singing a bawdy song about a miller's wife. A man with a scar across his nose throws him a coin. Laughing too loud, another, drunk beyond coherence, begins to snore against a beam. Now, this isn't a free-for-all. Taverns are, in theory, regulated. In England, for instance, King Edward III issued ordinances to control pricing and quality. There were even ale testers, officials tasked with sampling brews and making sure no one got ripped off. If a tavern keeper served bad drink or cheated on the weight of their bread, they could be fined or publicly shamed. Still, law and practice weren't always in sync. a wink, a bribe, and you could get away with quite a bit, especially if the local lord liked your ale. There's another layer, too. Taverns aren't just hangouts, they're social centers. Deals are made here, marriages are arranged, plans are whispered. In the early 14th century, some taverns became meeting points for rebellions or religious dissidents. It's dangerous, sure, but it's also one of the few places where people, poor or rich, can pretend to be equals for an evening. The ale doesn't care if you're a butcher or a bishop. Just as you're thinking of ordering another round, a shout breaks out near the doorway. Two men are arguing, loud, heated, fists clenched. Someone shouts, "Enough," but no one moves to stop them. A brawl is not uncommon. In fact, many taverns kept weapons behind the counter for this exact reason. And sometimes, people died. More often, they were just thrown out into the mud, their pride and noses both broken. The fire crackles. The dog is back, curled beneath your feet. A little boy, maybe the taverner's son, refills mugs without spilling a drop. Outside, the wind howls. But in here, the world is loud and hot and full of life. This is not the sanitized past. This is what it was like, messy, loud, real. And if you're tired now, close your eyes. Let the clatter and hum of the medieval tavern lull you. The laughter, the music, the fire. Sleep, traveler. Tomorrow, the road calls again. But tonight, you're here, in 1380. You awaken, or perhaps you never truly slept, to the low rumble of voices. Dawn hasn't broken yet. In the corner of the tavern, a pair of merchants argue softly over the price of wool. A few embers glow in the hearth, casting shifting shadows on the uneven walls. It's a new day, but the tavern never truly sleeps. Not in this time. You stretch, still seated on the bench where you nodded off. In the medieval world, taverns often served as informal inns, especially in towns too small to have official lodging houses. If you were lucky, you'd get a straw mattress in the attic. If not, well, the floor or a bench would do. The cold might nip at your feet, but it's still better than a ditch. Overhead, the wooden rafters creak as someone moves upstairs, probably a maid. Or perhaps a guest who arrived in the night. You wonder, who slept above you? A pilgrim on their way to Canterbury? A messenger carrying royal news? Or maybe a fugitive hiding in plain sight? Taverns welcomed all, the righteous and the damned alike. The taverner's daughter begins stoking the fire. She doesn't acknowledge you. She's seen 100 like you. Her hands move with the precision of someone who learned young that spilled embers mean burned feet. And burned feet mean no work. Her breath fogs the air. Outside, the sky begins to gray. As morning truly begins, the tavern transforms. The drunks are gone, either stumbled home or passed out in the stable. The travelers prepare for the road. Breakfast is plain. A bowl of pottage, perhaps, made from leftover stew diluted with water and thickened again with grains. If bread is available, it's yesterday's loaf, crusty and rough. You eat in silence, chewing slowly, wondering what world this food was grown in. A world where every loaf has a backstory: sun, rain, toil, and sometimes, blood. The door bangs open, letting in a blast of cold air and the smell of damp hay. A reeve enters, a sort of medieval tax collector and village official, with 2 guards in tow. Their faces are lined, serious. Everyone straightens. Even the dog whimpers and moves under the bench. The reeve speaks to the taverner in low tones. And you catch fragments: missing sheep, blacksmith's boy, gone since last market day. Someone might be in trouble. Or something darker. Taverns weren't just places of refuge, they were also the first stop when someone disappeared. This wasn't uncommon. With no police force as we know it, medieval towns relied on tight-knit communities, tithings, and local lords to maintain order. Gossip moved faster than justice. If someone vanished, the assumption was usually simple: they either ran, or they were taken, sometimes by criminals, sometimes by conscription, and, at least in whispered tales, by things not of this world. But the reeve leaves, and the tension fades. Slowly, the tavern returns to motion. A boy brings in buckets of water from the well. You watch as they're poured into a large cauldron near the hearth. Water in a medieval tavern was never taken for granted. Clean water was a privilege. If you were in a bigger town, there might be a fountain maintained by the guild. In villages, the well was life and death. If polluted, that's why ale was safer. why broth simmered all day, and why wine was sometimes mixed with herbs to cleanse it. Behind the bar, a new barrel is tapped. It hisses as the plug is removed, and dark ale sloshes into a mug. The taverner tests it with a practiced sip. Acceptable. By mid-morning, the regulars will be back, not drunks. Not exactly. Laborers looking for a warm seat. A drink before plowing. Older men with no fields left to till. Passing the hours with dice or stories. A traveling friar, perhaps, come to collect offerings and leave behind a sermon half of them will ignore. And then come the women. Tavern life wasn't just for men, though it often seemed that way. Some women came to work, serving food, cleaning, tending fire. Others came for coin, and some just came to escape their own homes for a while. In some towns, the line between tavern maid and prostitute blurred. Not because all women in taverns sold themselves, but because society labeled any woman alone in a public space as questionable. Still, many were simply daughters, wives, or widows trying to make ends meet. Near noon, the tavern swells again. Travelers arrive from the nearby road, brushing mud from their boots. A young woman with a falcon on her glove speaks quietly with a bearded man in a wool cloak. Traders, possibly smugglers, who can tell? A group of apprentices enters, loud and hungry, their leather aprons still smeared with soot. The smell of bread, real, fresh bread, fills the air. It must be delivery day. That, or someone got paid. You glance around. It's loud now, not chaotic, but full. Wooden mugs clink, boots stomp. A juggler enters, throws 3 apples in the air, and catches 2. One falls and rolls. Laughter erupts. He bows, and the taverner grunts, tossing him half a coin. It's enough. A performance, entertainment, a distraction. But beneath it all, the business of the tavern never stops. At one table, a man counts silver into his hand, perhaps a bribe, perhaps a dowry. At another, a parchment is signed with trembling fingers. Likely someone selling land they swore they'd never give up. These are not just stories. These are lives. And in the medieval world, the tavern is where lives changed. Quietly, you notice something scratched into the beam above your head, barely visible in the gloom. A name, a date, 1327. Beneath it, a symbol, a sword, crossed with a key. You wonder what it meant. Who carved it? Were they alive still when the Black Death came? Just 2 decades later? Did they survive? Did they ever return here? A bell tolls in the distance. The church, a reminder of structure, time, hierarchy. The tavern seems to ignore it, as it always does. Here, time is measured in mugs and arguments, in meat bones and candle stubs. Outside, the world spins toward history. But in here, it remains exactly what it is. A moment suspended between yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's uncertainties. You take a deep breath. The scent of roast meat and wood smoke. Of humanity at its most unfiltered. Not glorious, not clean, but utterly, undeniably real. You are not a visitor now. You are part of the tavern. The sun now rests high in the sky, though you wouldn't know it inside the tavern. There are no windows here, just slits in the wood or stone. Perhaps a small hole covered in stretched animal bladder. Light is a visitor, not a resident. Shadows cling to the corners. And the air is thick with warmth, sweat, and 100 years of soaked in stories. Lunch, if it can be called that, is being served. Not from a menu, of course. There is no choice. You eat what's available, what survived the morning trade or last night's stew. Today it's a bowl of boiled beans and cabbage, heavy with garlic. A piece of salted pork floats near the surface. More fat than meat. A miracle. You eat without complaint. Food is fuel, not comfort. The table beside you erupts into a loud argument. 2 men accusing each other of cheating at dice. Voices rise, and for a moment you expect fists. But then the older one slams a cup down, swears in a dialect you don't understand, and storms out. The taverner doesn't flinch. This happens daily, sometimes worse, but most know better than to shed blood on the tavern floor. That brings trouble. That brings the bailiff. Dice and cards are common, but not exactly legal. In many towns, gambling was technically forbidden, especially for apprentices, soldiers, and clergy. But in taverns, rules bent like soft iron. The church preached against such vices. But even friars were known to lose a coin or two when the wine flowed freely. As the tension fades, A group of minstrels enters. You can hear them before you see them. The soft twang of a lute. The rhythmic stomp of boots. They're young, dirty, but confident. Their leader, a woman with a shock of red hair and a voice like honey over gravel, begins to sing. The room hushes. This is the magic of music in a world without radios or playlists. Every note is temporary. Every chorus a one-time gift. Her song is Body. Of course, about a knight and a miller's daughter and a very unfortunate goat. The room explodes with laughter. For a few minutes, all is joy. But the mood shifts again when a hooded man takes a seat near the hearth. No one knows him. He doesn't remove his cloak. His hands are ink-stained. A scribe? A spy? He orders no food, only warmed wine, the kind steeped in cloves and herbs, rich enough to hide poison if one had the mind. The taverner eyes him, doesn't ask questions. You begin to understand something fundamental. The tavern is a stage. And every person who walks through its doors becomes an actor. Some roles are known, others, masked, but all of them, real. In a way, this is where history actually lives, not in castles or cathedrals. But here, in the worn wood and spilled ale, in laughter and suspicion, in the things left unsaid. Outside, the weather turns. A thunderclap rattles the shutters. Rain begins, soft at first, then heavy. A blessing for crops, a curse for travelers. The tavern door swings open again, revealing a woman carrying a bundle wrapped in soaked wool. A child, maybe. She speaks quickly to the taverner, who motions her toward the hearth. The child is ill. The heat might help. A mug of ale is offered, not to drink, but to pour into a cloth and press to the boy's chest. Folk medicine, centuries of trial, error, and superstition. This, too, is part of the tavern's life. Healing, hiding, hoping. Afternoon drags on. The rain doesn't stop. More travelers come in, some singing, some swearing, some silent. A young man offers to trade a copper ring for bread. The taverner accepts, but keeps the ring. It's probably worthless. Doesn't matter. He's not feeding the man. He's feeding the tavern's legend. Every item behind the bar tells a tale. A dented helmet, a cracked lyre, a tooth. No one asks whose. Now and then, you hear Latin. A cleric. He quotes scripture with one breath and curses the price of ale with the next. Beside him, a woman sketches the face of a sleeping drunk on a piece of bark with charcoal. She might be an artist, or a spy, or just bored. Labels are slippery here. You step outside for a moment. Under the awning, the rain cools your face. The street is mostly mud. Horses flicking their tails as they stand tethered. You hear bells in the distance, maybe for vespers, maybe for warning. Back inside, the tavern glows like a lantern against the storm. And yet, for all the noise and chaos, there is a rhythm to it all. A strange kind of peace. In a world without clocks, without schedules, the tavern moves by human time. Hunger, thirst, story, sleep. As the fire is stoked again, and torches are lit along the walls, you glance up at the same ceiling beam. More names, new ones, some carved with care, others barely scratched. You add yours with a broken nail. Tomorrow, maybe, someone else will sit here and wonder who you were. And that is the quiet magic of a medieval tavern. Not just the drink or the noise or the danger, but the feeling that you have shared something with people across time. Across worlds. A place that forgets nothing and forgives just enough. Your mug is empty, but your story is not. Evening descends not with the flick of a switch, but slowly, like ink soaking into paper. The air thickens, heavy with the mingled scents of roast meat, damp wool, wood smoke, and sweat. The tavern glows deeper now, lit only by the flickering fire. Tallow candles stuck into cracked holders, and oil lamps that spit occasionally with a hiss. Someone brings in a jug of mead from the back. It's homemade, fermented honey and water. Maybe some herbs, strong enough to make you forget your debts, sweet enough to make you think they never existed. You take a sip. It burns a little. You like it. The crowd has changed. The workers and travelers of the day give way to the creatures of the night, gamblers, storytellers, whisperers, and those who trade more than coin. A woman in red with a dagger in her boot sits by the hearth, dicing with a man whose hands shake too much for someone just playing games. No one asks questions. No one needs to. There's music again, this time slower. A fiddle now, old and warped, its bow made from horsehair and hope. The fiddler plays with his eyes closed, as if conjuring ghosts. And maybe he is. This music isn't for dancing. It's for remembering. A tune older than the tavern. Older than the town. Maybe even older than the language they speak. At the far end of the room, a man begins to tell a story. Not loudly, he doesn't need to. People lean in naturally, pulled by tone and rhythm. He speaks of a knight who returned from crusade with no memory of who he was. Only a ring and a wound that would not close. He found his way to a tavern much like this one, where a barmaid reminded him of something he had done, something terrible. He never left that tavern again. You feel the silence that follows. Deep, heavy, the kind that asks you to examine your own shadows. But then laughter returns, as it always does. Someone tells a joke about a bishop and a pig. It's not clever, but the way it's told makes you snort ale through your nose. From the shadows, a figure stands. He's not drunk, not loud, just deliberate. He removes his cloak and places something on the table, a scroll. Sealed in red wax. The room goes still again. You don't know what's inside. Maybe no one ever will. But he leaves without saying a word. And the scroll remains, untouched. That's tavern law. If something is left behind, it's not yours unless you know who left it, or dare enough to care. The taverner wipes the same spot on the counter he's wiped 100 times already. Not out of need, out of habit. This is his kingdom, and he rules it with an iron ladle and a 1,000-yard stare. He's seen love blossom and bodies fall. He's buried more regulars than he can count. And still, every night, he opens the door, lights the fire, hopes that maybe tonight won't be the night it all burns down. A group of pilgrims arrive late, soaked to the bone and shivering. They carry wooden tokens around their necks, symbols of shrines visited. Sins confessed, penances paid. They ask for bread and warmth. And the taverner obliges. One kneels in the corner and begins to pray aloud. No one mocks him. Everyone here has something to atone for. You realize how strangely holy this place is. Not in the church sense. Not sanctified, but sacred in a different way. This is where people come to reveal themselves. Piece by piece, not always with words, sometimes in glances, in silences, in stains that don't wash out. The fire pops, and a log shifts. Sparks swirl like fireflies before vanishing into the dark beams above. You notice the ceiling again, how low it feels. As if the building is pressing in on itself, cradling its secrets. 1,000 footsteps have walked this floor. 100 arguments have echoed off these walls. And through it all, the tavern has watched, patient, unchanging, waiting. You go to relieve yourself, stepping through a side door into the backyard, a patch of earth that barely qualifies as open space. There's a trough, a barrel, and the faint smell of everything that's ever rotted. You handle your business quickly and return, not because of the cold, but because something out there felt wrong. As if the tavern's protection didn't extend past its walls. Back inside, someone has fallen asleep face down in their stew. No one bothers them. They've earned that sleep. Another patron, half drunk, half sober, sings softly in a language you don't know. It could be a lullaby. Or a curse. You catch the eye of the woman in red. She's watching everything, but saying nothing. The dagger in her boot gleams. She smiles, but it's not a friendly one. You wonder how many stories in this room will never be told. How many hearts are carrying burdens that even a dozen tankards can't drown. The night grows deep. You feel it in your bones. In the weight behind your eyes. There's no clock to tell you it's late, but you know. Everyone does. The story's slow. The songs grow softer. The fire dims. People settle where they are. Some will sleep on benches. Some on the floor. A few might leave, but most won't. You claim a spot near the corner, wrapping your cloak around you. It smells like smoke and yesterday, but it's warm and safe. The last thing you see before sleep takes you is the flickering flame in the hearth, dancing like a memory too old to name. And just before your eyes close, you think you hear the taverner whisper something, too soft to catch, too real to forget. Every soul who passes through these walls leaves something behind. Maybe tonight, that something is you. Morning doesn't arrive with grandeur, it creeps in. A pale, gray light pushes at the shutters like a beggar asking for warmth. The tavern groans softly, as if waking from a heavy dream. You're still wrapped in your cloak. Your neck sore from an awkward angle against the timber wall. The fire is no longer flames, just a faint pulse of red embers. struggling to keep the dark at bay. Someone coughs. A chair scrapes. Then silence returns. The taverner is already up. Of course he is. He's never not awake. He moves like a ghost between tables, gathering tankards, wiping down the wooden surfaces with a cloth that's more memory than fabric. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The smell has changed. Now it's stale beer, cold ash, and something boiling in the back, maybe oats, maybe cabbage, the kind of smell that tells you the day won't be kind. But at least it will begin. One by one, the guests stir. The woman in red is gone. The man with the scroll never came back. The gambler is missing a boot. No one asks why. No one ever does. Your head throbs slightly. Was it the mead? The fire? The dreams? Dreams in a tavern like this cling to you. You dreamed of a feast, a king, a dungeon, a war. You dreamed of a mirror that didn't reflect your face. Maybe it was just the ale. Maybe it wasn't. You stand and stretch, joints cracking like old wood. The floorboards beneath you remember every step. You could swear they groan in recognition. A bowl is placed in front of you. Gruel, thick, gray, and steaming. A wedge of coarse bread on the side. Baked 3 days ago if you're lucky. No cutlery, just your hands. This is breakfast, and it's the same for everyone. No matter your coin or your dreams. 2 travelers near you talk quietly. Their accents mark them from far away. They're debating whether to cross the mountains before the next full moon. One mentions wolves. The other curses the price of ferry crossings. They both eat like men who haven't trusted comfort in years. A monk enters. His robe is threadbare, stained with road and time. He carries a satchel and a walking staff etched with symbols you don't recognize. He blesses the room with a mumble, then sits near the fire's remains. He doesn't order. The taverner brings him the same gruel, nods once, and walks away. This isn't charity. It's ritual. Everyone here plays their part. There's a posting board near the door. You approach it. Messages tacked with iron nails or bits of string. Some are written in Latin, some in the common tongue, some just symbols. Lost items, wanted men, rumors of plague in the next shire. A drawing of a raven with words. Beware the one who speaks in sleep. You're not sure if that's a warning or a confession. The taverner finally speaks, his voice rough like tree bark. He tells everyone that a rider came in the night, left a message, then rode on, said there was a skirmish near the border. Bandits, or soldiers, or both. Roads might be closed, or worse, opened. The monk mutters a prayer under his breath. The gambler, now missing both boots, laughs bitterly. War again, he says. Always war. You wonder what it would take for a tavern like this to change. Fire? Flood? Famine? Or maybe nothing ever does. Except the faces that pass through. Someone begins singing, not a song for joy, but one of labor. A farm tune, perhaps. Others join in slowly, not in harmony, but in rhythm. The sound fills the space like smoke. Soft and inevitable. The morning now feels like an echo of the night. Familiar, but reversed. Where there was wine, now there is water. Where there were secrets, now there's silence. You step outside. The world beyond the tavern is wet with dew and early mist. The street is mostly mud, churned by carts and hooves. Chickens dart between piles of straw. A boy runs past, chasing something invisible. A dog growls softly from under a cart. Vendors begin to set up, fish wrapped in leaves, bread on slabs of slate, trinkets of bone and brass. Life is loud here, even when words are few. You glance back at the tavern. Its sign creaks in the wind, still unreadable, still unmoved, and you realize, this wasn't just a place to eat or sleep. It was a passage, a crossing between who you were yesterday and who you might be tomorrow. Inside, the taverner begins lighting the fire again. The cycle begins anew. The tavern doesn't care if you come or go, but it remembers. And so do you. You begin walking. You don't know where the road leads, but you carry something with you now. The sound of stories, the smell of smoke, the weight of glances shared over a wooden table. And in your mind, just beneath the surface, the echo of the taverner's whisper still lingers. Every soul who passes through these walls leaves something behind. You wonder what it was you left, and what it is you've taken. You take the road that leads away from the tavern, not because it's the best one, but because it's the one your feet chose. There are no signs, no maps, just instinct and the weight of the past evening humming in your chest like a leftover song. Fields stretch wide, painted in early sun and broken fences. A man waves from a distance, his ox pulling a cart filled with hay and nothing else. Behind him, a boy mimics his father's walk, oversized boots dragging in the dust. It smells like damp earth and the coming of something, a harvest. A storm, maybe both. You think about the monk, about the gambler, about the woman who vanished without a sound. Each of them a story in the making or unraveling. And yet none of them felt out of place. That was the magic of the medieval tavern. It wasn't just a place for ale and fire. It was a vessel, a pot where people, lies, truths, and destinies all simmered together. But now, out here, things feel clearer, until you hear it. A bell, not from a church, not from a chapel, but a traveling bell, the kind that hangs on the cart of a merchant, or a healer, or a man who sells knives duller than his tongue. Sure enough, a figure appears ahead on the road, pushing a wooden cart with one wheel stubbornly squeaking. His cloak is patchy, stitched with symbols and pieces of different fabrics. Around his neck, bones clatter like prayer beads. Blessings and bargains, he calls. A wide grin splitting his face. For coin or tail, I trade. You hesitate, but he's already beside you. He offers you a drink from a flask that smells like crushed herbs and memory. Then he shows you his wares. Vials of colored sand. A map with no words. A feather too heavy to be from a bird. And a small wooden token, carved in the shape of a tavern sign. This, he says, is from the time before inns had doors. From the days when men drank not to forget, but to remember. You ask him what that means. He only winks and asks for a story in return. You tell him something small. A dream, the girl in red, the gambler's lost boots. He nods like it's the greatest tale ever told. Then hands you the token. No charge, he says, but keep it near. Some doors open only when the past is invited. Then he pushes his cart down the road. The bell fading into morning like a song ending mid-note. You continue walking. By midday, the road narrows into forest. The sun flickers through the leaves like a candle behind stained glass. It's quiet, too quiet. You begin to understand why so many travelers stopped at taverns not for food, but for voices. Because silence, in the medieval world, isn't peaceful. It's dangerous. Every crack of a branch might be a deer, or a thief, or worse, someone who used to be both. You grip the wooden token. It feels warmer now, or maybe your hand is colder. Suddenly, a structure appears between the trees. Not a castle, not a farm, another tavern. But this one is strange. Its timbers are blackened, not by paint but by time or fire. Its windows are too small, and its sign is missing. In its place, a carving of an open eye. You knock, no answer. You push, the door creaks inward. Inside, it's dark, but the kind of dark that watches you. Tables are there, but they're not empty. Each one holds something, a feather, a stone, a lock of hair. Offerings? Tokens? There's a fireplace, but no fire, just ashes shaped like a spiral. And then, footsteps. A woman appears, not from a door, but from the shadows. Her dress is plain, her eyes are not. They look at you as if she knows what you dreamed last night. Maybe she does. You've come far, she says. You don't reply. She pours a drink anyway. It smells like the monk's robe, like wet parchment and silence. This place, she continues, isn't on maps. It's remembered, not found. You ask what that means. She shrugs. You'll see. You drink. The room shivers. Not literally, but something inside you shifts, like a page turning. Unbidden. Suddenly, you remember a song from your childhood. One your mother never sang. One you've never heard. But now, it plays in your mind clearly. Painfully. She smiles. The tavern creaks. The eye on the wall pulses. This is not just a place to rest, she says. It's a place to be reminded. Of what? She doesn't answer. Instead, she lights a candle on the table. Its flame doesn't flicker. It stands straight, unnaturally tall. And you see, in the wax, faces. Familiar. Strangers. All drinking. All watching. You stand too quickly. The candle wavers. The faces vanish. I've stayed too long, you say. She nods. You leave. The door shuts behind you. The wind feels different now. Thicker. Like you're walking not through air, but through something remembered. You don't look back. The forest leads you onward. And the token in your pocket is colder now. Whatever that tavern was, It wasn't just stone and wood. And it wasn't for everyone. But somehow, you had been invited. The road continues, though now it feels less like a road and more like a memory being replayed. Every bend seems familiar. Every tree seems to lean in, whispering something in a language made of bark and wind. You don't know where you're headed anymore. The forest offers no signs. No noise. Just the occasional bird cry that sounds suspiciously like a warning. Then, suddenly, stone. A bridge. Old, moss-covered, and narrow. It stretches across a ravine you didn't notice until now. Its bottom lost to mist and echoes. As you step onto it, a strange sensation washes over you, not fear, but reverence. This bridge isn't just old. It feels sacred, like monks once crossed it on silent missions, or exiled lovers whispered secrets here before vanishing into legend. In the middle of the bridge, you pause. There's something etched into the stone. You kneel to see it better. Ale speaks the truth when mouths forget it. Strange, or maybe not, taverns were temples in their own way, temples of memory, confession, and transformation. You cross. On the other side, the trees break. Fields again, but these ones are different. Instead of wheat or barley, they grow blue flowers, tall, swaying with no wind. You've never seen them before. And yet, they feel like part of a story you almost remembered once. While dreaming during a fever, a man is in the field, kneeling, picking the flowers carefully, as if they might scream. You approach. He doesn't look up. These only grow where something tragic happened. He says softly, places where a truth was swallowed and never spoken again. You ask what kind of truth. He doesn't answer, just hands you a flower. Keep it, if you bleed while holding it. The petals turn white. You pocket it, unsure if it's a warning or a gift. The path leads on. Eventually, you come across a crossroads. No signs, no people, just 3 roads. Left, right, and straight ahead. Each looks the same. Dirt, grass, trees. But you hesitate. You sense they don't go to the same kinds of places. You sit. You close your eyes. And then, laughter. Faint, but real. You open your eyes and follow the sound. Not left, not right, but slightly off the road. Through a tangle of trees and briars. There, hidden between 2 gnarled oaks, is another building. A tavern. Smaller than the first. Quieter. You enter. It's empty, at first. Then, slowly, people fade into view. Not appear, fade, as if they'd always been there, waiting for your eyes to remember them. A woman scrubbing a mug, humming a song in a dead language. A man playing dice with someone you can't see. A child staring at a blank wall, smiling like he knows what's behind it. You sit. No one serves you, but a cup appears anyway. It's warm, spiced, like apples and loss. On the table, there's a book, no title, but it opens easily. Inside, names. Names you don't recognize. And when you do, yours. Beside it, a date. Today. You look up. The woman cleaning mugs is staring at you now. Her eyes hold the weight of someone who's watched too many people arrive and forget why they came. What is this place? You ask. A ledger. She replies. For those who left things unfinished. You try to stand. The book slams shut. Not yet, she says. The child turns, points at the wall. It begins to shimmer. And suddenly, you see it, not a wall, but a window, into another tavern, one you've never seen, but instantly recognize. A knight is there, drinking with shaking hands, a nun, laughing with a thief, and in the corner, the woman in red, watching you, not through the window, but into your soul. The barkeep leans close. You've been to her tavern. That means she marked you. Who is she? Someone who never left, someone who waited too long for the truth. Now she owns pieces of anyone who steps into her story. You look at your hand. The flower's petals are white. Blood, somewhere, is being remembered. You run, back through the forest, across the field, over the bridge, but everything is quieter now. As if the world knows you've seen something you weren't supposed to. When you reach the original tavern, the one with fire and noise, it's gone. In its place, ashes. A single cup sits atop the charred stone, still warm. Inside it, a token. Your token. The one the merchant gave you. But now, it's cracked. Something has changed. You look up at the sky. The sun is gone. But the stars are awake early. And they're watching. You realize you're not tired. You're not lost. You're being remembered. Somewhere, Another tavern is opening its door. And you're already inside it. The stars are not just watching. They're remembering. You sit beneath them now. Knees in the dew-soaked grass. Breath visible in the cold night air. Around you, the forest is silent, but it's not a silence born of peace. It's the hush before a story decides to begin again. And you're part of it. From somewhere behind, a soft melody drifts in, someone playing a lute. The notes are old, they creak with memory. They sound like something someone once played to stop a war. Or maybe to mourn one. You turn. A fire glows ahead. And around it, travelers. Not soldiers. Not nobles. Common folk. A weaver with calloused hands. A baker with flour in her beard. A woman with too many rings and no shoes. They don't look up when you arrive. Because you've already been here. You sit. And the weaver nods. We're waiting for the inn to open. He says. You ask which inn. He shrugs. Depends on the night. Depends on what you need to forget. The lute player stops. A man you hadn't noticed before. Cloaked in blue. Speaks without looking up. Do you know why taverns always face west? You don't. So the sun's last light warms the ale. And so people who enter can walk into forgetting. While those who leave walk toward remembering. You don't know if that's true. But it sounds old enough to be. Someone hands you a bowl. Soup. Strange spices. Floating roots. You taste it and immediately see your childhood, someone calling your name. Then vanishing behind a door that never existed. This place is powerful. But not dangerous. Not yet. You feel it though, that something is close. Like thunder before it speaks. The woman with too many rings stands. It's time. The others rise. Together. You walk, not along a path. But through memory. The forest parts. And there it is again. A tavern. This one is made of black wood and stone. With iron hinges on its door and windows that flicker like eyes. It doesn't look welcoming. It looks honest. You step inside. The air is thick with incense and firewood. With something metallic beneath. Blood? No. Just the ghost of it. No one greets you. But seats are waiting. Not random, placed. With names carved in the backs. Yours is near the hearth. You sit. On the wall. A painting. Faded and cracked. But unmistakable. A battle. But not one from history books. This one happened in the heart. You study it closer. There's a figure standing alone on a hill. Watching two armies tear each other apart. He wears no armor. Holds no sword. Just a cup. An innkeeper. Watching. Waiting. The fire crackles. And suddenly, you're back. Not in your body. But in someone else's. A woman's hands. Calloused. Strong. Pouring ale for a man in chainmail who won't meet your eyes. You realize, it's you. Or rather, someone you once were. You're reliving a memory not from history. But from your soul's archive. The night is crying. Quietly. I left them, he says. In the woods. I thought if I brought the map, they'd forgive me. You say nothing. Because the ale speaks better than you can. Later, when he sleeps, you take the map. And burn it. Because some paths are better forgotten. You jolt. Back in your seat by the fire. The others are staring at you now. The weaver leans in. You saw something. You nod. No one asks what. Because everyone here saw something. That's why they're here. That's what taverns were. Long before they were places of drink. Spaces between what happened and what was supposed to happen. A liminal room. A last chance. The woman with the rings places a candle before you. Make a vow, she says. To what? To forget. Or to remember. But you must choose. You hesitate. The candle flickers. You close your eyes. And whisper. I vow to remember, but only enough to keep me from making the same mistake twice. The candle goes out. And when it does, so does the tavern. Darkness. Then, moonlight. You're back on the road. Alone. The token in your pocket glows slightly, enough to guide you forward. The road bends again. In the distance, you hear music. Different this time. Not a lute. Not a harp. But pipes. Joyful. Wild. Someone is dancing. You follow the sound. Another tavern. But this one is joyous. Lanterns swing from beams. Laughter spills from every open window. Inside, people are dancing barefoot, singing songs without words. You don't remember arriving, but someone's already poured you a drink. You raise it, and for a moment, everything feels possible. Not because of what you remember, but because of what you've let go. And somewhere, far away but watching, the woman in red smiles. Because every tavern is hers. And you're learning how to live inside the story, not just survive it. Morning in a medieval tavern wasn't quiet. It groaned. Wooden beams creaked like old bones stretching. The hearth, still hot from the night before, hissed as a sleepy tavern boy tossed a wet log onto the embers. Outside, roosters crowed. Inside, groans, coughs, and the unmistakable sound of someone discovering they'd drunk far too much cheap ale. You wake slowly, your head filled with fog and fire. For a moment, you forget where you are. The straw mattress beneath you pokes your ribs. The ceiling's too low, and the air smells like damp stone, horse sweat, and boiled onions. Ah yes, the tavern. You sit up. The room around you is shared. 4 others sleep in separate straw piles. One snores like a dragon choking on a chicken. Another murmurs in Latin. None of them wear shoes. You don't either. The floor is cold. You find your boots under a bench, one stuffed with hay to hide the hole in its sole. Before you leave the room, you check your pouch. 2 copper coins. Better than nothing. You stumble down the stairs into the common room. It's unrecognizable. Gone are the shadows and flickering candlelight. Daylight streams through the open windows, revealing every stain, crack, and mouse hole. The magic is gone, replaced by the gritty work of life. The tavern keeper, once a mysterious silhouette behind the bar, is now just a woman in a stained apron, wiping tankards with a cloth that's dirtier than the dishes. She sees you, nods. Breakfast? You nod back. Coin first. You offer one of your precious coppers. She slides a bowl toward you. Porridge. Gray. Lumpy. Somehow both hot and cold. You eat it anyway. Around you, the tavern stirs to life. A merchant argues with a man over the price of salt. A bard counts his tips from the night before. Frowning, a child, whose parent is nowhere in sight, picks crumbs from under the benches. This is what taverns were, not just places of mystery and mischief, but the center of community. A place to rest, to trade, to tell lies and hear truths, to plan revolutions, or just to find someone who'll listen. A man sits beside you. He smells like horses and smoke. You heading north? He asks. You shrug. Maybe. He nods. Road's bad. Bandits. Better go with company. You glance at him. He has a scar across one eye and fingers stained with ink. A soldier or a scribe? Maybe both. You travel much? You ask. He smiles, revealing a chipped tooth, enough to know every tavern has 2 doors. You raise an eyebrow. He continues. One for the body, one for the soul. Most folks only use the first. You finish your porridge. Which one did you come through? He laughs. Doesn't answer. The tavern door creaks open. A monk enters. Dusty. Pale. Clutching a bundle of scrolls. He speaks to no one. Orders nothing. He just sits near the fire. Pulls out a quill. And begins to write. What's he recording? You wonder if, centuries from now, someone will read his account and imagine a quiet monk in a noisy tavern, trying to trap history before it slips away. The tavern dog appears again, tail wagging, ears alert. It barks once at the monk, then trots over to you. You scratch its ear. It licks your hand. Good dog, the horse-smelling man says. Better company than most. You reply. He nods, knows when to trust, when to leave. The bell above the door jingles. Another traveler enters, covered in rain, face half hidden in a hood. They glance around. Their eyes land on you. You don't recognize them, but something stirs inside your chest. As if, once upon a dream, you met this person beneath a tree heavy with snow. They walk toward you. Sit. Silence. Then, you drop this. They slide a small object across the table. It's a ring. Yours? You're not sure, but it fits your finger like a memory that never left. You look up. They're gone. Vanished. The man beside you chuckles. Told you. 2 doors. You stare at the ring. It's plain, worn, engraved with a language you almost understand. The monk glances at you now, as if he just wrote your name. You suddenly feel watched, but not by the people. By the tavern. Its beams, its walls, its hearth. This place remembers, not just your coins and cups, but your footprints, your laughter, your grief. You've been here before, maybe not in this life, but once, and you'll be here again. Because taverns are time travelers. Every ale poured is a moment melted. Every story told is a spell against forgetting. You stand. The tavern dog whines. You give it your last coin. The keeper watches you leave. Doesn't smile, but she nods. You step outside. The sun is high now. The road is dry. Ahead, the forest waits. You walk, each step lighter. Not because the world is easier, but because, somewhere in the noise and nonsense, you remembered a piece of yourself and left behind the rest. You are part of the story now. And the next tavern? It already knows your name. The next village is smaller than the last. A crooked church, a crumbling wall, 3 chickens that don't belong to anyone. And, of course, a tavern, if you could even call it that. It leans to one side like it's trying to whisper something to the earth. Its roof is half thatch, half patchwork miracle. A rusted horseshoe hangs above the door, not for luck, but because it's too bent to nail to a cart. You pause outside. The sign creaks in the wind, the hollow hen. Charming. You enter. No bell, just the smell of old cider and damp wool. Inside, 6 tables, 1 fire, and no laughter. A man snores by the hearth. A woman mutters to herself in the corner. Behind the bar, a boy barely old enough to shave looks up at you with the suspicion of someone who's been left alone too long. You nod. He nods back. You sit. The stool wobbles. So does the candle on your table. You serving anything hot? You ask. He shrugs. Depends if the fire holds. You smile. Fair enough. In medieval taverns, hospitality was not guaranteed. Food? Maybe. Beds? If you could afford it. Kindness? Don't count on it. Still, there's something comforting about places like this. They don't pretend. The boy brings you a wooden bowl. Inside, something beige, floating in something gray. Soup. Maybe. You eat it. It tastes like memory, warm and hard to name. The woman in the corner suddenly looks up. You're walking the old road. She says. You blink. She's staring right at you. How do you know? She shrugs. Only 3 kinds come this far: fools, thieves, and pilgrims. Which am I? She grins, revealing 2 teeth. That's the test. She goes back to muttering. The boy watches her. Then you. He looks nervous. She's harmless, he says. Most days. You nod. The fire cracks. The snoring man twitches. Outside, the wind howls. You wonder how many stories have started in places like this. Or ended. Taverns weren't just rest stops. They were confessionals, marketplaces, courtrooms without gavels, sometimes even battlefields. And when the sun went down, they became something stranger. By night, a medieval tavern could transform. The same man who sold you butter in the morning might offer to sell you a relic of St. Peter by candlelight. A woman who spun wool by the window could become a prophet after 2 cups of mead. You heard things in taverns you weren't meant to hear. And some things you could never unhear. You finish your soup. The boy clears your bowl. You sleeping here? He asks. You think about it. Maybe. Got a cot upstairs. Used to be for my brother. He's gone now. You hesitate. Gone where? He shrugs. Don't ask anymore. The woman in the corner snorts. Gone into the woods. More like. Or the hollow hills. The boy flinches. You follow him upstairs. The cot is a wooden frame with ropes. No mattress. Just a wool blanket that smells like smoked fish. Still better than sleeping outside. You lie down. The ceiling has carvings, runes or doodles. One looks like a bird. Another like an eye. You close yours. Sleep comes slow. In your dream, you're back at the first tavern. The one with the candlelight and dog. But it's different. Everyone is wearing masks. One man has a pig's snout. Another, a crown of leaves. The woman at the hearth, her face is blank. You sit at your usual table. There's a ring in front of you. The same ring. Someone whispers. Every tavern is the same tavern. You wake suddenly. The room is dark. Something's moving downstairs. You sit up. Careful. You listen. Footsteps. Then, laughter? You creep to the stairs. Voices float up. Low. Rhythmic. A chant? You descend 1 step. The light below flickers. You descend another. Now you see them. 4 figures. Standing around the hearth. The fire's out. But they hold candles. Each wears a hood. Each hums a different note. The woman from earlier is among them. The boy, too. You step on a creaky board. Silence. All heads turn toward you. No faces. Only shadows. Then, you found the other door. One says, you want to speak. You don't. Another points to your hand. The ring is glowing. You were always part of the story. They whisper. The fire bursts back to life. The tavern vanishes. You're standing in a forest clearing. The same 4 figures before you. One holds out a scroll. You take it. It reads, * all roads lead to the same hearth. When you look up, you're alone. Except for the dog. It barks once. Sits. You sit too. You're not cold. You're not afraid. You're just awake. Somewhere. A tavern door creaks open. You don't look back. You walk forward. The road waits. So does the next tale. And maybe, just maybe, the next bowl of soup won't taste like regret. The road bends west now. You follow it without thinking. Behind you, the tavern is gone, as if it never stood at all. Ahead, the land rises. Trees thin out. Stone walls reappear. A different kind of silence settles, not the hush of nature, but the watchful quiet of civilization. You arrive at a crossroads. 3 signposts. One points to Wexley. One to Red Hollow. The third is blank. You choose the blank one. Always choose the blank one. It leads you to a village. This one is larger. You hear voices before you see faces. A hammer strikes metal. A goat bleats. A bell rings. Life. But it's not like before. Something's wrong. Too quiet. Too clean. You ask an old man sitting near a cart, is there a tavern here? He doesn't look up, just mutters. No taverns. Not since the fire. You nod. Right, of course. But then a girl tugs your sleeve. There's one, she whispers. But you have to knock 4 times. On what? She points to a barn. You approach. It smells of hay and rust and secrets. You knock. 4 times. Nothing. Then, a click. The door opens, just enough. Inside, stairs. Going down. You descend. The air cools. Stone walls. Torches flicker. Then you hear it. Laughter. Music. A lute. Maybe. A drum. A low chant. You reach the bottom. A door opens into something impossible. A hidden tavern. Lit by candlelight in colored glass. Tables carved from tree trunks. Ale poured from clay jugs. People in clothes from 100 different times. A knight sits next to a merchant in silk. A barefoot monk plays dice with a woman wearing a fox mask. They all look at you. Just for a second. Then go back to their stories. You step inside. This is not a tavern. This is a memory. A living museum of every tavern that ever was. A woman greets you. No name. No smile. Just eyes like firelight. You've walked far. You nod. Then drink, she says. She hands you a mug. It's warm, spiced, alive. Where am I? You ask. Where you've always been, she replies. You sip. And suddenly, you remember. Not everything, just flashes. A boy playing under a table while monks argue above. A young woman running into a stable with a secret letter. A man in chains, drinking his last ale before dawn. They're all you. Or you were them. Or will be. Time bends in places like this. Taverns were never just buildings. They were pockets, loopholes, sanctuaries between stories. You take a seat at a round table. Someone begins to tell a tale. It's about a horse that never died. About a king who fled the throne and became a cook. About a map hidden in the foam of ale. The words settle around you like dust. You listen. And then, your turn. You begin to speak. You tell them about the crooked sign. The soup that tasted like regret. The ring that glowed. No one laughs. No one doubts. One person nods. Another claps once. The woman with firelight eyes returns. She says, now it's your turn to pour. She hands you the jug. You go behind the bar. Strange. Feels natural. You serve the knight, the merchant, the monk. They tip with coins, feathers, bits of glass. You pocket none of it. Someone asks for a song. You hum. Another for a riddle. You give them one. What grows backward but dies forward? They don't answer. The tavern begins to dim. One by one, candles go out. The door reappears. You walk through it. You're in a field. The wind has changed. It smells like iron. Storm coming. In the distance, thunder or hoofbeats. You walk faster. But something's different. You feel full. Fed. Not just in body, but in story. The way a good tale settles into your bones. Ahead, smoke. Not fire. A forge. And beside it, another tavern. Smaller. Simpler. You approach. The sign says, the far end. You smile. Inside, only one table is occupied. The man there waves you over. You're late, he says. You sit. Is this another one? He laughs. This is the last one. For now. You tilt your head. Do I know you? He shrugs. Only if you've listened. He pours you something red. Tastes like endings. You've done well, he says. What happens now? He leans in. Now you rest. The world grows soft. The candle flickers. Sleep, finally, feels like a door, not a fall. And as your eyes close, you hear one last thing. Every tavern holds a piece of the same story. You just help remember it. Darkness, stillness, a warm table beneath your hands. And then, nothing, which is everything you needed.